This is what we talk about when we talk about streaking directors. Hello and welcome to what we talk about when we talk about film. I'm Sam.
I'm Dan.
And each week we will discuss different theories, aspects and ideas about film.
Yeah, and this week we are talking about current director streaks. So directors are on a good streak. Our definition of a good streak is just a succession of good films made by the same director. Okay, and we're basically making a game out of it. It's going to be like director streak top trumps. So we have our 3 director and their streaks. We're going to place one at a time, and then the other one we'll put down a director and a streak that he thinks is better than the other one, right? And we've calculated basically with this hugely complex mathematical equation. It is the highest average score of all the films on IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, and Metacritic.
The Holy Trinity.
We're not saying that these, ratings are fair or just of the quality of the films. We're just doing it for the game.
So, criteria for a director streak to be considered current: it has the most recent film has to be released in the past 5 years, and they have to have a future film in development. So it means that their streak can continue and they're not retired or anything. We also came up with a word streak-worthy. So each film on the streak has to be streak-worthy, meaning it is a significant part of their filmography. So, for example, we wouldn't consider Steven Spielberg on a good streak at the moment simply because, although they aren't terrible films, Tintin, Warhorse, BFG, he's not going to be remembered for those.
No.
I mean, this is subjective, of course, but the point is that we have to argue that the films in the streaks are streak-worthy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Game on.
I'll go first, and I will pick Paul Thomas Anderson. And the films in the streak for Paul Thomas Anderson are Boogie Nights, Magnolia, Punch Drunk Love, There'll Be Blood, The Master, and Inherent Vice.
Those are some good films. I think I'm going to save what I think is my best for later to be safe. So I think I'll go for Martin Scorsese.
Okay.
So the films are Wolf of Wall Street, Hugo, Shutter Island, The Departed, Aviator, and Gangs of New York.
Okay. I have some questions about that list then.
Okay.
Gangs of New York and Aviator, I'm not sure I'd call them streak-worthy.
Okay, I would.
Okay.
I don't know. People have so much hate for Gangs of New York, but I don't like.
It's so long. It's so long and messy, and it's just Daniel Day-Lewis getting scenery stuck in his teeth.
There's nothing wrong with that.
You
gotta love Daniel Day-Lewis.
Leo DiCaprio is really bland in it.
This is so blasphemous. You can't. I cut off at Bringing Out the Dead. I stopped there. I couldn't. I drew the line there. I drew the line at Nicolas Cage.
Full Cage.
Yeah.
Paul Thomas Anderson made a film called The Master because he is the master. I mean, every single one of those films I think is a classic. He even made a good Adam Sandler comedy, which I think is a really impressive feat. He made sense of a Thomas Pynchon novel in Inherent Vice. Again, no one else could do that. And Boogie Nights, if you describe it to someone, it sounds insane. It's a film about a guy with a massive penis, essentially. But it's great, and they are kind of similar directors in a way, I think, Scorsese and Anderson.
Yeah,
a lot of sort of long tracking shots. And
I definitely think they're heavyweights.
Absolutely,
up today.
Right, so who wins that round? Scorsese versus PTA?
Paul Thomas Anderson has a score of 80.887.
So Paul Thomas Anderson, 80.887.
That's good.
Martin Scorsese, 78.
Oh, so Anderson beats Scorsese.
Not by a lot though.
No, it's a close one, but...
Was it Hugo? Did Hugo let me down?
No, actually, Hugo was one of his higher ones.
What?
What let you down was Shutter Island.
What?
Shutter Island, yeah.
I think it's one of his best.
I know.
And Gangs of New York.
Yeah.
And Gangs of New York. Were there any weak ones for Paul Thomas Anderson?
Paul Thomas Anderson, his weakest one was Punch Drunk Love. And actually, Inherent Vice, sorry.
Inherent Vice. I can kind of see that. I think it's probably maybe his weakest. In terms of enjoyment, I think it's one of his best, but in terms of actual filmmaking, it's probably on the weaker side. But I still consider it a very significant film in his career.
Yeah, but I think as well it wasn't particularly easy for like the average person.
No, I mean it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
but I think he admits that. He said, don't try and make sense of it. Just let it happen.
It's part of it.
Yeah. Right, round two.
So it's my go now.
It's your go.
Alright, I'm gonna leave my best one to last. So I'm gonna go with Christopher Nolan. So from Interstellar, Dark Knight Rises, Inception, Dark Knight, Prestige, and Batman Begins.
Okay. Not bad. I challenge your Christopher Nolan with Denis Villeneuve. Now that's a director I think a lot of people wouldn't consider for this director streak round, this game. But when I read you the list, you may change your mind. So that's Incendies, Prisoners, Enemy, Sicario, and Arrival. So I would say Denis Villeneuve has more interesting films than Christopher Nolan. They're more challenging. I think Christopher Nolan does blockbusters very well, but at the end of the day, he is doing quite mainstream, common blockbusters. He just does them very well. Whereas Denis Villeneuve, I mean, to go from Prisoners, which is, in terms of plot, quite a standard thriller, but to make it look so incredible, and then to go from that into Enemy, which is just the most... If you haven't seen Enemy, please do, because it's absolutely bizarre. There are spiders in it for no reason, and Jake Gyllenhaal plays a guy who is kind of like the double, in a way. But yeah, that he can do those two films and pull it off, I think is really impressive.
Yeah, no, I think he's definitely more art house than Christopher Nolan is more alternative. And yeah. My cut-off point this time was Insomnia. I didn't think that was up to Christopher Nolan standards. Yeah,
and it's a shame because that means you don't get Memento in the streak as well.
Exactly, yeah, it blocked Memento.
Yeah.
Which was annoying.
I think as well though, Denis Villeneuve, so Arrival has just come out and that's almost his version of Interstellar in a way. So that's why I chose Denis Villeneuve, because they're both Interstellar and Arrival.
Right.
They're both sci-fi but realistic sci-fi.
Yeah.
And they're also about like really human stories within a sci-fi realm. Yeah. Also, he's directing the Blade Runner sequel, Blade Runner 2049. Obviously, we have no idea how that's going to turn out, but I think it's interesting to bring up that he's got that job based on this streak.
I think it'll be good. I think I'm excited for this one.
So, can we have the scores then for Denis Villeneuve versus Chris Nolan?
So, Denis Villeneuve had 80.862, and Christopher Nolan had 81.052.
Yeah,
again,
that is a really good score though. I didn't think
0.25 he beat him.
0.25. I didn't expect it to be that high. To be honest, like no offense to Denis Villeneuve, but yeah.
What's the lowest Chris Nolan film out of interest?
The lowest Chris Nolan film was The Prestige, and the lowest Denis Villeneuve film was Enemy.
I can get that. That's quite a divisive film, I think.
That's another one that's difficult to understand.
Right. Well, this is round 3 is gonna make it.
Yeah, it's the tiebreaker.
So ready? Ben Wheatley is my pick.
Ben Wheatley. I did not see that coming. All right, I went with the Mexican master Alejandro González Iñárritu.
Wow. Okay.
Do you want to do your films?
Yeah. Okay. So Ben Wheatley, British director. I've gone for Kill List, Sightseers, A Field in England, High Rise, and Free Fire. Free Fire is not released yet, but I've seen it, and I can tell you it's amazing.
Okay. I did not see this coming at all. But I think if I lose, I won't even be mad. Mine is, I realised this is literally his filmography. So he started with Amores Perros, then he did 21 Grams, Babel, Beautiful, Birdman, and Revenant. That's literally every feature film he's made.
Okay. I think where I'd go for Wheatley over Iñárritu is that he's very upfront about what he's doing, I think, in his films. Like, all of these films could be seen as genre films. So Kill List is a horror thriller, Sightsee is a comedy, Free Fire's pure action film, but he does them in his own interesting way.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Iñárritu, there's a bit of pretension going on with Iñárritu, especially in something like Birdman, which didn't sit quite well with me, to be honest. But it did win Best Picture, so I'm obviously in the minority.
Yeah, because this is part of the game. You have to think what the general public online to be an optimized think. So
as well, I think I may lose this round, because Ben Wheatley probably doesn't do as well with American audiences and American critics. I mean, there's something quintessentially quite English about Ben Wheatley in his films.
Absolutely.
Like, they're almost Python-esque in a way. There's just British humour and that kind of weird sensibility that a lot of foreign audiences may not get. So I think you might have the edge here. But who knows?
I would say also he maybe doesn't have the same platform, right? As like Iñárritu. Like, they're not his films aren't the same size. They're
definitely
not the same reach.
Iñárritu's got this whole, really, in terms of like filmmaking, it's so precise to him as well.
So Iñárritu has 77.162.
Okay.
And Ben Wheatley has 70.196.
Oh.
When he said 70, I thought it was going to be like 78 or 79.
I'm not surprised then that Ben Wheatley is the lowest
Yeah, by
of all of them by quite a bit.
all of
That's
these are quite low.
yeah, that's a shame.
I have to commend your bravery. And
Thank you. It was a risk. It was a risky effort.
Yeah.
We knew that was going to be a risk. Right. Well, Better Man 1. Well done.
Thank you.
So, what was your favourite streak out of those 6 then?
I have
could
to
be
say, Denis Villeneuve was probably my favourite.
Interesting.
Because he's so exciting. Like, I haven't seen a bad film of his yet.
That's the thing as well. I think out of all of these, he's got the furthest to go.
Yeah.
With something like Blade Runner 2049 coming out in a few years, that's probably the film I'm the most excited about.
And I think that will elevate
years.
him.
Yeah,
I think that will elevate him. So I'm looking forward to that.
He's definitely one to watch.
For sure.
I'd go for Paul Thomas Anderson as the best streak. Even just looking at this streak, there's so many great films, and I think every single one of those films could be considered his best by someone.
Yeah.
Like if someone told me that their favourite Paul Thomas Anderson film was Punch Drunk Love, I'd think, yeah, fair enough. It's not mine, but I can perfectly see that.
Yeah.
Whereas if someone said their favourite Chris Nolan film was The Prestige, I would think that's a strange choice, but I can certainly see it.
I think he's a really complete filmmaker.
So, is a streak a good way to measure the quality of a director?
I would say yes. I would say yes because, one of the rules initially was that there have to be at least 4. And that's basically to say that there isn't like a fluke, right? There's a level of consistency.
Definitely, I agree. And I think we've got examples like Kevin Smith or Bryan Singer, 2 directors who I think are considered good directors.
Yeah.
But when you look at their filmography, it's very patchy. It's always like good film, bad film, good film, bad film. So there's a way to separate the men from the boys, to put it that way.
Yeah.
But what do you think about our streaks? Did we miss any out? Are there any that you think we really got wrong? If you do, challenge us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Yeah, and click through to our other segment, Shelf of Shame, where we find out which of our crew members hasn't seen Alien, and we made them watch it, and we see what they think.
Join us again next week.
And thanks for watching.
Yeah, the bit with the robot is weird, because there's a bit where he literally does that,
Yeah.
and then Ridley Scott's commentary of like, I hate that bloody shot.